Do you suffer from sleep apnea, like me, and are tired of the current forms of treatment available? Well, join me today as we discuss something new on the horizon that will turn traditional apnea care on its head. I'm Jay, and this is Somnilopod. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Guess what? This is episode 100, and I have been so hesitant to do this episode, I really don't know why. I wanted to try to do something really special, for episode 100, and the more I thought about it, the more anxious I got, and then I thought, I got to come up with a really great idea, and then I thought, I really don't need to come up with a great idea. I just need to give you something to listen to, something to learn, and something that I think is interesting. And that's what I decided to do. So all of that angst that I was feeling over this episode, let's get rid of it. So we're talking about something really interesting today. For decades, obstructive sleep apnea, also referred to as OSA, has been treated primarily with devices and lifestyle changes. Continuous positive airway pressure, CPAP, machines remain the gold standard, but anybody who has tried one knows that they can be loud, uncomfortable, and difficult to stick with for the long term. And for millions of adults, the nightly struggle with masks and hoses has left them searching for another solution. Now, a new line of research may be about to change the landscape of sleep apnea care, opening the door for a simpler, pill-based treatment. A pill for sleep apnea! That's craziness. On July 23rd, a company called Apnea announced encouraging top-line results from Lunaro, its second phase 3 clinical trial of a drug called AD109, an oral medication designed specifically for obstructive sleep apnea. This drug combines two components, and forgive me if I get these names wrong, eroxybutynin at a low dose of 2.5 milligrams and atomoxetine at 75 milligrams. They've combined those into a once daily capsule. The results from Lunaire follow closely on the heels of another large trial, Synergy, which already suggested the drug's potential. Together, the two studies may set the stage for a long-awaited breakthrough in the treatment of obstructive sleep apnea. Now, the Lunaire trial enrolled 660 adult participants across 64 sleep centers in the United States, nearly half of whom were women. I think about 46% were women and 54% were men. It's important given that sleep apnea is often underdiagnosed in women. However, over the course of 12 months, participants were randomized to receive either the AD109 drug or a placebo. And the main measure of effectiveness was the apnea-hypopnea index. That is basically an average of the number of times you have either an apnea or a hypopnea, which is a partial closure of the upper airway, versus a complete closure, which is apnea. The number of times per hour of sleep that you have one of those events. Typically anything less than 5 is considered normal. But they use the AHI, and that basically tracks the number of times a person has trouble breathing or breathing disruption during their sleep. And the results were striking. At 26 weeks, patients treated with AD109 experienced a 46.8% reduction in their AHI, compared to just 6.8% in the placebo group. And even more encouraging, these benefits were sustained through 51 weeks of treatment. In about 23% of participants, the AHI dropped to less than 5, which is considered complete disease control. In other words, nearly 1 in 4 patients on AD109 saw their sleep apnea effectively eliminated. at least by clinical standards. You may still see in some patients, they may still have 1 or 2 apneic events per hour at night. That's not necessarily enough to cause symptoms, so that's why we set that standard at 5 times per hour, and that's why the AHI was used in the clinical setting. Now, beyond reducing the AHI, the trial also showed improvements in measures tied to oxygen levels during sleep. The drug lowered the oxygen desaturation index, which is a count of how often the blood oxygen level drops during the night. Sometimes greater than 3%, sometimes greater than 4%, depending upon what standard or what measure you're using. And it reduced the hypoxic burden, which refers to the cumulative toll of low oxygen episodes. Both improvements point toward not only better sleep quality, but also reduced cardiovascular risk, since oxygen deprivation during sleep is strongly linked to heart disease, stroke, and other serious health problems with a pill. I just think that's amazing. For patients and clinicians, the significance is clear. If AD109 continues to show this level of effectiveness, it could represent the first oral medication approved specifically for obstructive sleep apnea. And that could mark a major shift in how the condition is treated. Instead of struggling with bulky machines or undergoing surgical procedures, patients might someday manage their sleep apnea with a daily pill, much like high blood pressure and diabetes. ApneaMed has stated that based on the combined results of the Lunaro and Synergy studies, it plans to file for a new drug application with the U.S. Food and Drug Administration in early 2026. While regulatory approval is never guaranteed, the consistency of the results across 2 large trials is promising. For now, the news offers hope to millions who battle sleep apnea each night. And as someone who has worked in this field of sleep medicine for decades, I see this as a potentially game-changing development. It's not just about the numbers on a chart. It's about real people, those who dread strapping on the CPAP mask, or who silently suffer through restless nights because they can't tolerate the traditional treatments. And if AD109 makes it to pharmacy shelves, it could reshape the conversation around sleep apnea, shifting it from a lifetime of mechanical therapy to a simpler, more accessible solution. The story isn't finished yet. Clinical trials are a step, not an endpoint. Safety, long-term outcomes, and affordability will all need to be addressed. Still, with each new result, the possibility of a pill for sleep apnea feels closer than ever. And for patients who have long lived in the shadows of fatigue, poor sleep, and health risks, that possibility carries real weight. And speaking of weight, other medications have been approved for affecting sleep apnea. For example, weight loss medications. Typically, when someone loses weight, their airway becomes more open as a loss of that adipose tissue, and it can affect their level of sleep apnea during the night. But that's different. That's treating the weight. That's not treating the sleep apnea specifically. So this is a really big step. And I look forward to seeing more results from these companies and seeing where this goes. I hope this has been interesting for you. You may have noticed some changes in some of the episodes that you're listening to. The platform that I use, called Libsyn, has approved Somnilopod for some commercials, which actually makes it a monetary incentive for me. So I get a little bit of a kickback with those commercials, and that helps me do this and keep this going. So I appreciate your patience and your willingness to listen. If you'll do me a favor, I appreciate this. If any of those commercials you think are just odd for this type of channel, send me a note, send me an email. You can touch base with me at j@somnilopod.com. They have let me sort of pick the areas that I want the advertising for. So let me know what you think, and I will adjust those settings as time goes by. So until we talk again, please remember to make sleep a priority. Thank you so much.